Hillary Clinton is back on the campaign trail. The former First Lady slash Senator slash Secretary of State, again, the runaway frontrunner for the Democratic Party nomination for U.S. President. That was the case in 2008 before a certain Barack Obama emerged. How much has she changed since? While most candidates struggle to make their name known to voters, Clinton's big challenge is to avoid seeming too familiar. What does she stand for today? Has the candidate still vying to become the first female U.S. president changed? But also, has America changed? What do voters want from their politicians in a nation that seems ever more polarized? Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at Hillary Clinton on the road again. With us, Léa Pizarro, former advisor to U.S. President Bill Clinton. Also with us, Laurie Dunton, who worked for the U.S. State Department and who now teaches at the French Political Science Institute, Sciences Po, as does Laetitia Vito. Remind us again what you're teaching.
Understanding American politics.
Understanding American politics for French students or for
French students, yes, French students from Roosevelt to Obama.
Okay,
especially elections.
And the French eye, the European eye on this U.S. race in its early days will be something that we'll be broaching later on in our conversation. Also with us, he's the Franco-American author of a book on Mitt Romney, Gérald Olivier. Good evening. Columnist at Atlantico.fr. Many thanks for being with us again.
My pleasure.
The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, hashtag F24debate. The new Hillary has hit the road. She's gone on what's called a listening tour that'll take her to Iowa, where the first big primary caucus takes place next January. This after announcing on social media. Mark Thompson tells us more.
Everyday Americans need a champion, and I want to be that champion.
A former First Lady, Secretary of State and Senator, Hillary Clinton has an armory of experience to fall back on. But in her opening 2016 campaign declaration video, none of these roles are even referred to. Instead, it shows what Clinton calls everyday Americans, aimed at some of the voters she lost to Obama last time out.
Latino voters, black voters, young voters, women, and you really get this sense that Hillary's trying to resurrect that coalition.
8 years ago, she was meant to be the inevitable nominee. Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign was confident, brash, and eventually complacent.
They only planned in terms of money, in terms of campaign, in terms of delegates. And here along comes this phenomenon, Barack Obama, and upsets everybody's calculations.
Despite Clinton's low-key start, the 2016 campaign is likely to be the most expensive in history. Democrats and Republicans are expected to more than double the $1 billion total spent by the two sides in 2012. But it's not just Hillary that will have to learn the lessons of 8 years ago. Then, her husband and former President Bill was accused of stealing the limelight.
Biggest fairy tale I've ever seen.
Bill Clinton, frankly, and often lost it. Lost his temper, said things that were regrettable. The press suddenly loved to remind themselves of how much they loved to hate Bill Clinton.
Clinton will spend the early weeks of the campaign shoring up grassroots support in traditionally Democratic states, with advisers saying she intends to run as an underdog. But once again, she's the party's presumptive nominee, making her a target for not just those seeking nomination across the aisle, but also from within her own party.
All right, that more than a 2-minute promotional video, Léa Pizarro, Bill Clinton nowhere inside of it this time around.
She's allowed 2 minutes without her husband, but I do think we will be seeing him.
We will be seeing him on the campaign trail.
We'll be seeing him. We'll be seeing Chelsea, and we'll even be seeing Charlotte. It's a very compelling family. So of course, he's part of her story.
And will we learn anything new about her? We saw a pretty damning at its front page lead story in The Economist last week, where it said we're not quite sure what she stands for.
Well, look, she's accomplished a lot more since she last ran. So she has her 4 years as Secretary of State, all the other things she has done. And I'm sure people will try to make us learn things that won't necessarily be true. And it will be her job and the campaign's job and her supporters' job to see that the truth is told.
What do you think, Gérald Olivier, about the way the announcement was made and this idea of the listening tour?
I thought it was a very interesting little video. You know, when you go into politics, the first thing you do, you try to motivate your base, and then you expand from your base. And when you look at the video, you see Hillary Clinton's base, women and minorities. She went in there defending the family, and it's the new kind of family. You can see, actually, the old America. There are two white women in the clip. They're both over 50s. All the other women are minorities. The young girl out of college is Asian. There's a young couple, they're African American. The only other white people are a gay couple. So obviously Hillary is contrasting the old America to the new America, and she's definitely going to appeal to young, globalized, urban voters. But so far, I'm not sure that she'll be able to go beyond that, and that's her problem.
Laurie Dundon?
In terms of whether she's responding to a new
Whether this was the
electorate?
right way to go, is it?
I think everyone's looking for a new way to package their outreach to refresh their image, especially if they're already well known to the voter electorate. But she also seemed to be taking a very clear tactic to try and not launch a big stadium event, a big speech, but to keep it human, personal, direct, get out there on the road and try to build up. They talk about ramping up over time. This is an early start of the election. This is still very early on. So they have a lot of opportunity to reach out through various medium to various audiences.
And remind us again of, because it's hard for a world audience to understand this sometimes, why, when you were more than, 500 days away from the actual election, why do you need to announce so early?
In some ways, I think the anticipation, this particular time of this particular candidate had gotten so far out ahead that it was a matter of deciding whether the election had already, the campaign had already in some ways begun. So to bring in the infrastructure that comes into play once you declare, once you announce, to try to have all of those assets and structures that can form a more unified coordination around a particular message. You saw a little bit of this in the last weeks when there was the comments about the emails, Clinton having a personal email, and just the type of functional issues of a potential candidate of that stature engaging with a wide network. Now being a declared candidate, she'll have all sorts of other resources to work with.
Laetitia Vito?
At least if I'm...
I think what she's shown in this film is that she's already changed her image compared to 2008. She ran the campaign in 2008 as if being a woman was a liability and not an asset. And what this shows, with all those images of families, women, pregnant women, etc., is that she will own up to the historic nature of her candidacy this time, and that, yes, she's a woman, and it's not a liability. It will be an asset, and everyone who uses that against her will suffer for it. That's, I think, really one of the stark differences. The people in her team back in 2008 felt she had to tone that aspect down, be more manly than a man, be overconfident, and it's only until too late that she discovered that she had to basically be a woman, and that shedding a tear could in fact help, and that showing emotion could help. So I think this is what it's all about, showing emotions, family values, being a woman and accepting it.
Of course, that's a campaign clip that's carefully crafted. Then there's the actual campaign. Laurie Dundon was mentioning it now already. There's fodder for her critics with this email that she kept on a private server when she was the Secretary of State. The idea that the Clintons and that Hillary Clinton is a very secretive person. How much will that play in the campaign?
That is her biggest challenge, to appear as a non-threatening figure, which is why she has this strategy of playing the grandmother-in-chief card. I have no secrets. I'm just this nice grandmother who cares about people. But of course, her opponents will use the email gate for sure, even though I don't think it will really hurt that much. I mean, it's just basically understandable that it's more convenient to use your personal email address, and Americans know that.
Right, I agree
So
entirely.
I think,
There's enough fodder out there for anyone to pick at from over the years. The interesting part is that the critiques seem to be much more of the same. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of new thematic in the attacks against her yet. So I think this is familiar territory in some ways. The interesting part will be what lies ahead and the debate over content within the parties and between the parties, and that's still very much unknown.
Gérard Olivier.
An attack only works when it reinforces in people's mind what they actually already think about that person. And yes, Hillary is someone who's known to be very secretive. So this is really not something good for her. It will come back, this email and other things. But going back to the clip, I thought there was one element quite interesting in it. At the end, trying to make a case for the American family, she mentioned how difficult it was for them to get by and that they managed to get by, but they can't get ahead anymore. And it seems to me, I don't know if it's a mistake, it's too soon to talk about the economy, but getting ahead is what America is all about. And if American families can't get ahead anymore, then there's real trouble with America. And Hillary has been very close to power for 16 of the past 24 years. So she is, in a way, responsible for that difficulty in getting ahead. And I'm not sure if she wasn't just shooting herself in the foot by putting that element in that clip so early.
We need to do a little math here. You forgot the 8 years.
No, I said 16 of the last 24.
Yes, okay, so 24 minus 16 is 8, and it's during those 8 years that the economic boom that occurred under her husband's presidency disappeared because of the Republican leadership or misleadership of the country. So I actually think this is one of the greatest things she can run on. Sure, her husband's record, but also the economy is doing quite well under President Obama. So it's a good thing.
All right, not everybody as enamored as Léa Pizarre, the Rupert Murdoch-owned New York Post, with a not-so-subtle front page on Sunday, "Oh, Hill, no," and there you see below, no, 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 and page 4 column entitled, "We're Not for Stale," with the subheading, "America's Moved On, Hillary Hasn't." The Republicans already, by the way, directing their firepower at the presumptive Democratic nominee and her track record.
Welcoming Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Hillary Clinton has some explaining to do.
Used her personal email account to conduct official business.
Wanted to reset relations with Russia.
Not really working out well.
Potentially catastrophic move for Hillary Clinton.
Taking millions of dollars from foreign governments.
Landing under sniper fire. It was a total crock. It was a lie.
What difference at this point does it make?
This is just par for the course for the Clintons. They're always a little bit secretive.
Of course, one thing that's changed since the last time she ran for president, Laurie Dundon, is there's even more money than there was then in campaigns. We're going to see a lot of ads like that one.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of the same attacks that we've heard over the last years repeated again and again and again. But going back to my point earlier, that still does not demonstrate at all differentiation between her views on the content. I mean, one thing that is worth pointing out is that through all of her years of experience and through all of her years of public life, she's been very vocal about the issues that she's worked on and that she's committed to and passionate about. And so for people to take on that challenge, to challenge her on that content, will be a completely different type of critique and one we've not seen yet.
But one of the big criticisms, though, we're hearing is that we don't have a vision from her yet, especially when it comes to the economy.
Interestingly, her message last night was she talked about wanting to be a champion for everyday Americans, but she also made a very clear distinction, clear point, by saying that the deck is still stacked in favor of those at the top. And that was a position, a policy. She's had various elements that have started to consistently come out in showing that she's going to be committed to working families, small businesses. And so there's some continuity. We have to see what comes next.
Is that going to work, though, when you have a candidate who who for the first time was in a governor's mansion back in 1979 and is seen as though she is a Washington insider?
call me biased, but I see her as someone with experience, with absolutely unbeatable experience. It's kind of incredible everything that she has accomplished in a lifetime. And I would rather have an experienced person who knows what they're doing, who has been a governor's wife, First Lady of Arkansas, a very accomplished lawyer, First Lady of the United States, Senator from New York, Secretary of State, who has already run her own campaign and been through campaigns and really knows her stuff, who sat on the Armed Services Committee of the Senate, knows her foreign policy, knows her domestic policy. I personally find that much more compelling than someone who's just starting out.
Laetitia Vito, how's the perception of Hillary Clinton changed over the years?
I think that when she started in 1978, when she ran that first campaign with Bill, who wanted to become governor of Arkansas, she was seen as a dangerous feminist. Or dangerous is a bit strong a word, but she was certainly not someone Arkansas people felt comfortable with. And over the course of the following years, she managed to learn how to tone down her feminist rhetoric, how to be more reassuring. She changed her name from Hillary Rodham to Hillary Rodham Clinton. She basically learned how to compromise, and she's kept doing that over the next 20 or 30 years. She must have had a very hard time as a First Lady because she's the most political and the most qualified First Lady America has ever had. And for that reason, finding a role as someone who could, should, and would like to be elected as a non-elected First Lady is the biggest challenge you can imagine, and she was hated for it. Remember her attempt to reform healthcare, and I say her attempt because she was put in charge of it because President Bill Clinton knew she was capable of doing that, but it was just not something that most Americans wanted to accept because she didn't have the legitimacy. Now she does.
Léa Pizzart, before even she had presented that healthcare bill in the early 90s, she was a magnet for a lot of criticism. You could even say hate. Why is that? More than her husband.
I think it's what Laetitia was saying. I do think the country has changed, the demographics have changed, and maybe she helped change it. But at the time, it was very difficult for a certain conservative electorate to see such a woman charging forth on these issues. And when they said you're getting two for the price of one, that was not what the electorate wanted to hear. So that was a mistake in framing. She was not elected to be First Lady, so she had to relearn that role, and I think it was difficult for her. Subsequently, she was elected, so she has had much more of a mandate since then.
All right, we're going to pick up on that point with our panel when we come back. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.